gave this question. Chris Sims not sold on Najee Harris, likes Javion Hawkins and ETN more. Keep up the great work, my guys. So I'm with him on the ETN. I don't agree with Javion Hawkins. I think Javion Hawkins is really good. I think he's like a third or fourth round running back, home run hitter, but he's not better than Najee Harris. No.
Yeah, Najee's my number one guy. Vish, tell me if I'm crazy here. Do you see a little Steven Jackson, maybe a little baby version of him with how
that's
physicality?
That's the comp. Yeah.
Maybe I feel like he's a little smaller, definitely, because Steven Jackson was built like a Mack truck. But Najee Harris is kind of like that. But Najee Harris, man, that dude does not like first tackle or first guy to hit him. Like he does not go down. You obviously saw his athleticism with that insane hurdle. I think it was against Notre Dame. Maybe Clemson, I forget, but I mean, he got up there, which was pretty crazy. And then there was one question here that I thought was interesting. So, no running backs taken in the first round. Vish and I wouldn't take, neither Vish or I took a running back for any of these teams. Vish, do you think a running back should go in the first?
No, I don't think. I like Travis. Maybe ETN or Najee can be first round players. I'm not even sure about that if they're first round players. But I don't see the value in taking either of them in the first round, to be honest. I don't see the need either. I don't think there's a pressing need. Like other teams have more important things to fill. Like the Pittsburgh Steelers, it's the laziest mock. I think out there. Oh, Pittsburgh, James Conner just left. Okay, just give them Najee Harris. No, Marquise Pouncey retired. Alejandro Villanueva left. They've got to address that offensive line, especially because Big Ben is aging. They need to give him protection. And I think he's still capable of throwing the ball down the field, actually. I just think he's unable to because they can't protect and run the ball. And offensive line will help that. So to me, I don't think there's really even a spot for a running back to go either in the first round.
I'm with you on that. Like, people want to throw a running back there, but I mean, it's not like Connor's some insane, great running back, but he's not a scrub. He's a pretty decent running back.
He's on the Cardinals, though.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying, I was just bringing it up last year, and we saw how their O-line wasn't all that great, but they just lost a couple more guys. So what does that mean? Like, are you just not going to draft a guy in the first round and go running back at a, kind of a luxury pick there? So even with Connor and 2 extra O-linemen, their running game was pretty suspect, and now they're losing 2 O-linemen. So, man, I don't like it at all. And then someone else said Najee to the Ravens. I don't see it. They took J.K. Dobbins second round last year. Gus Bus Edwards he's a pretty good running back. I like him. The dude runs hard. They got rid of Boobie Dixon, who was an interesting running back, but they also have Lamar, who brings a lot in the running game. But I think those 3 is more than enough for the Ravens.
They signed Reef to a 1-year deal, so I don't even know how much of the future he is. I think he gives them good versatility and leverage in the case that Sewell doesn't fall to them or something goes wrong. But to me, Sewell is also the best player on the board there, so it's kind of a no-brainer to me. And you have a better offensive line with Penei Sewell at left tackle, Riley Reef at right tackle, and Jonah Williams playing guard than you do with Penei Sewell with Riley Reef at left tackle and Jonah Williams at right tackle. So to me, it's not even about Riley Reef. Like, you still got to take Penei Sewell.
Also, like, I feel like Riley Reef isn't the type of talent to be like, we're completely fine at tackle. We do not need to take a guy. Like, he's an all right starter. Like, he's not, going to be the worst guy on their line. He's going to be one of the better ones. But I don't think they signed Riley Reef with the intention of our O-line is set. We don't need to look at it in the first round. So, I mean, if you saw any Bengals games, you'd see Joe Burrow running for his life back there. He got injured because the left and right tackle, the pocket just completely collapsed on him. Man, I think they got to go Sewell bad here.
Yeah, so this guy has been pretty relentless with the Cam Newton inaccurate slander. I think Cam Newton's about as accurate as he's been in his career. If you think that's an inaccurate quarterback, that's fair. I would say that he's never been a consistently accurate one. What I will say is, who did he have to throw to last year? I keep coming back to this, right? Everybody wants to slander Cam Newton, but with Tom Brady last year, everyone said, who's he throwing it to? Well, who is Cam Newton throwing it to? Julian Edelman with 17 different injuries? Or I'm sure that he could have really completed a lot of passes to Gunnar Olszewski, or I didn't even pronounce his name right. Damiere Byrd. Who was he throwing to? I think with Jonnu Smith, with Kendrick Bourne, with Nelson Aguilar, you're going to see a better version of Cam. Right, Hunter Henry. I think if Jalen Waddle's there, you take him. And I personally think Cam Newton's going to win Comeback Player of the Year. I still think he's a legit starting quarterback. I mean, he had 12 rushing touchdowns last year. Those count too. So I think that they're really good, and I think that with Cam Newton, they can make the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm with you. And the one thing they are missing is any semblance of like just pure explosion. Now, Cam is a good runner. I mean, yeah, he definitely is, but he's not going to be a game breaker where he takes a quarterback power 80 yards to the house. That's not going to happen. I don't think they have any other guys on that offense that can do that. No one at the running back position really can. They're
Damian Harris, right. Damian Harris is kind of a thumper.
He's a good.
Kendrick Bourne is a little bit in between the numbers. Nelson Aguilar kind of can, but that's not his game. They need explosion in that offense. That's what they're missing. And that's what Jalen Waddle brings.
Waddle's about as an explosive player in the league as you can get. I mean, I'd say I'd wager saying like 4.29 or low 4.3s speed.
Yeah,
and
I mean, Henry Ruggs ran 4.28 and he's as fast as him.
He has that second gear where, like, if he gets around you, like, I don't care who it is, you're not catching him. Now, there's other receivers that will get past you, but you'll see them get caught from behind. If Jalen Waddle is, running on a straight line with you, you are not catching him. I do not care who you are. Maybe Patrick Peterson coming out of college is like the only guy who can do that because he was insanely fast, but there's no one.
So Jamal is really upset with me for the Tony pick. Here's the thing. I didn't see a bigger bodied receiver that they should take. I don't think Rashad Bateman is worth the, 27th overall pick. I don't think that that's the value for Rashad Bateman. And when you watch Bateman this year, right, 2019 Bateman was incredible. 2020 Bateman was not that good. He struggled to separate. As Blake said, he's good with 50-50 balls, but he's not like just every 50-50 ball is his type guy, right? And so it kind of left me in a tough spot. I mean, Dimey Brown is, in my opinion, probably Tony or Dimey Brown is probably the best receiver available. But again, Dimey Brown isn't an overly massive guy. He's not a big body guy, which then brought me to the fact, well, if you're not going to have this Terrace Marshall type, which is exactly what they need, I think they're best off getting somebody in Tony who's going to enhance what they do best, and that's their run game. Because I think that they need explosion to their offense as well, and Tony will add that. Tony can get open in the slot. He's still tough as nails, and he's got good hands. So I think he fits from that perspective. In an ideal world, if you're a Ravens fan, Terrace Marshall's on the board, and you just take him because that's the perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. And they have 2 first, so maybe they, one of the guys in there, they'll wait till 31 to take him. But I think they have to go at least receiver with one of these 2 picks.
Yeah.
It has to be done. Like, say what you want. Hollywood Brown had 900 yards. I'm not sold on Hollywood Brown. I'm really just not. I don't think Sammy Watkins will play healthy for more than, 10 games this year. He seems to always get injured. And if he's not missing the game with an injury, he's hobbling on the field. So I'm just not the biggest Sammy Watkins guy. And then I say, okay, Mark Andrews is a good tight end. I'll give him that. But who else? What else does Lamar have to work with besides that? Because you can't run it 40 times a game between him and Dobbins in a playoff scenario against another strong opponent. It just doesn't work. And I think we've seen that time and time again.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly put. And I think, again, we didn't do trades in this mock draft, but if Jamar Chase is on the board at 12 And Philly, I don't think is a team that's like one player away. Like they could use the extra picks, and you have 2 first-round picks. Call them and go get Jamar Chase, right? Mm-hmm. Jalen Waddle is maybe Waddle isn't exactly what they need, but again, the value is too good with Waddle at 15 to say no. But yeah, if Jamar Chase is there at 12, which is how it worked for our mock draft, he is what the doctor ordered for the Baltimore Ravens. And if you don't want to go up that far, again, Terrace Marshall was there till 25, so they could go up and get Marshall. I'm sure that like Marshall's a better player than Jason Owe, who went to the Jets. I'm sure the Jets would love to trade down one more time, and you can go to 23 and get Terrace Marshall.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think bottom line, Ravens need a receiver badly.
Yeah.
They have 2 firsts. They need some O-line too. They need a lot of stuff on offense, but that's besides the point. That's a good question, though, Jamal, and I definitely am with you, but I think Vish has some good reasoning behind it. Because I would have said Bateman, but interesting.
This is funny, and there is fact to it. I just think that the Eagles do need to start accumulating picks and getting assets because I think they're in for one. You're going to see the Eagles have to do a giant just tear it all down. I think it's coming soon for that.
Interesting. I don't think they should trade down again. I mean, if they got 2 first, that'd be pretty nuts. But I think Waddle or Chase. I think Chase would be a better fit for them. I think Chase would be too good for them there. I think they would have taken him at 6 if he was there. He just seems to fit in really well. They already have their their vertical guy with Rager. But yeah, man. I mean, Eagles.
Yeah, it's a good point.
They got to do something. They got to do something.
Yeah, they got a lot of problems. Thank you, Last Second Sports. We really appreciate it. By the way, if you're wondering how our overlays got so much better so fast, it's because this guy, Last Second Sports, Mr. Jesse Naylor, did them for us. If you're looking for overlays for your channel, please talk to him. He's really a great human being, great guy, first and foremost. And 2, he does an awesome job. And 2, make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's also doing an awesome job. He's a really cool guy. He's one of the nicest people out there. Make sure you go subscribe.
Yeah, definitely. And there's some good questions coming in. I
love this question.
I love this. All right. So Jacob S. asked, how analytically driven would you say you are in the draft? Thoughts on trading down often, taking valuable positions high because of the salary structure, so cornerback, receiver, corner, receiver, quarter, offensive tackle, and not drafting running backs high. Vish, you're going first. What do you think?
I'm majorly analytically driven. For me, the draft is all about 4 positions in the first round. To me, unless there's a generational player, because if there's a generational player, you throw it away like Quentin Nelson, Kyle Pitts, AJ Green, Julio Jones, those type of guys at receiver. To me, it's quarterback first, edge rusher second, offensive tackle third, and then cornerback fourth. Those are the 4 positions I would target in the first round. It's not always going to happen like that, but in an ideal world, those are the 4 positions I would like to draft. And so I'm definitely majorly analytically driven. I'm not into drafting running backs in the first round unless you're selecting Ezekiel Elliott, who was the no-brainer best player in that draft, or Saquon Barkley, who again was a special running back. With receivers, I'm kind of on the fence. Like, I think there is a lot of value to taking a receiver in the first round. My thing is that if you're taking a receiver in the top 10 in a typical draft, you're probably passing on a very good left tackle or a good edge rusher. And my thing is that unless that guy is AJ Green, you can get a receiver in pick 35, pick 40, usually in a draft, because there's so many good ones and there's so many athletically gifted players that could be almost as good as the guy who you picked at 10 or 11. So I am very analytically driven with the draft, and that's just how I've always been about it.
So this is a good question. So for the analytically driven part, I'd say not as much as Vish, but there is a certain sense where, like, okay, if I'm between a really good tackle and a really good running back, like, I'm taking the tackle every time. I guess from an analytical standpoint, I hate the idea of a running back going even remotely close to the top 10. Like Saquon Barkley at 2. I know he was an awesome prospect, but there's just the point that, like, running backs don't really win you games. you look at the teams that don't pay running back, you look at the Super Bowl teams that have been in the Super Bowl. They have good running backs, but they're never paying their running back the highest amount. And there's probably a reason for that, because you can get really good, cheap talent in the second or third round at running back and then not pay them. And you've looked at some of the running back contracts that have gone out to big guys. Now, not some of them have been really good. Henry and Cook, for example, have been great. McCaffrey signed a big one. He only played 3 games and was a baller, but he went out and what did Mike Davis do when he was getting paid peanuts? He replaced a decent portion of his production. I'm not going to say he's McCaffrey, but he did a decent job. And then there's the Todd Gurleys, the David Johnsons, the Le'Veon Bells. There's a few other guys in there too, but I just hate the idea of paying and drafting running backs. That's just my thought. But Vish, thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And again, just to go further a bit on this, because I think the point is that it's not to say that if you have a cornerback ranked 35 on your board and you're picking 20th and you have this guard that's ranked 13th, you take the cornerback. In that position, you obviously take the guard. But let's say cornerback's 25th and the guard is 18th. To me, it's a no-brainer. You take the cornerback. Because it's more likely you're going to find a better guard in rounds 4 and 5 and 3 than you're going to find a cornerback. Because to play cornerback in the NFL and be a good one, it takes a special athlete. And if you're that special of an athlete, you're going in the first 50 picks of a draft.
Yeah. And then back to this too, thoughts on trading down. I think this really depends on the team. Now, I think just a good rule of thumb is like having like 8 to 9 to 10 picks, and preferably not all of them, like 8 of them being like rounds 5 or later. I think that's ideal. Now, I do like the idea of if, say, you're the Jaguars and you're at 33, I would be totally cool with trading down to like 38 and picking up like an extra 4th and 5th. Like that to me is just really smart, because you're going to get a guy who's at a similar level, maybe not the guy you'd get at 33, but they'd probably be ranked similarly, and then you're getting 2 more picks. And 4th and 5th rounders don't always turn out to be, good. A lot of them bust, and a lot of them don't ever play, but there is the examples of, here's some Packers. There's Blake Martinez, who's decent. David Bakhtiari for the Niners. They took
George
Fred
Kittle
Warner in the 3rd round. I mean, if you were to trade those picks up and try to get a better prospect in the first, like, you're missing depth. You're missing a potential for a really good superstar or just quality player. So I really like the idea of trading down, but like there comes a point where like, okay, if you're a team that has pretty decent depth, like just keep your pick in the first round and take the best guy there. Maybe even consider trading up, because there comes a point where like, all right, you have a ton of depth, but like you're maybe missing higher end talent. And that's where like staying at your pick is probably ideal.
Yeah. That's pretty much right on. I'm also with you. I'm a little bit more old school. I look at the draft and I look at it as a giant crapshoot, and I think everybody looks at it like that. The older like kind of GMs and the way the traditional NFL thinking is, it's such a crapshoot. Let me get 10 picks. So now I have 10 opportunities to pick 2 starters from a draft. And if I can pick 2 starters, it's a successful draft. I just got to go 2 for 10 on picks instead of 2 for 7 or 2 for 6 or 2 for 5. Newer GMs are like, well, it's a crapshoot, so why would I waste time with all these picks? Let me just take a chance on a couple of players, try to bundle everything for those couple of players and all of that. But I still believe in if there's an opportunity to trade back and accumulate picks, I still think you should. I think draft picks are still a valuable asset and a valuable commodity in today's NFL, and I think that accumulating them would be quite helpful.
I'm with you on that. That was a great question.
Awesome question. So here's another great question. And I don't know if you have an answer to this yet, Blake, because I'm probably putting you a little bit on the spot, but I do. The most intriguing player in this draft to me is Trey Lance all the way. Because I look at Trey Lance and there's just this wide range of possibilities of what he could be. And now I'm not as high on him just because I think there's a lot in his game that needs to be polished and improved, and I have questions about, which is why I have him as my 5th rated quarterback. But there's a really good chance 5 years from now, Trey Lance has all those things hashed out and he's the best quarterback in this draft. There's also a really good chance that with his lack of reps, all his accuracy, inconsistent accuracy, and all of that he flames out. So he's kind of the most interesting mix of talent mixed with occasionally fantastic decision making, mixed with occasionally special throwing, mixed with occasionally ugly misses. I'm fascinated to see how he turns out, because this is the most interesting quarterback I've ever seen. Unfortunately, we only got to see one season of Trey Lance. I think if we got to see another season, we would feel a lot differently. But that one season is mixed with the highest of highs, the special of the special, and some pretty steep valleys and lows. So I'm really interested to see how he turns out.
Yeah, and I just want to expand on that more. So I haven't seen every single one of his games, but the ones I have seen, there's times where he'll just throw a rocket to his running back on like a little hook route or whatever. I'm like, does this man like not throw with any touch ever? And the more I watch, I'm like, this dude just throws like 100-mile-an-hour fastballs, but it gets there and it's super accurate and stuff. So like, what's there to complain about? Obviously, he has a super fast release. He has a cannon of an arm. And then you mentioned inconsistencies. I think one thing that I noticed was there'd be times, whether it's a deep route or a, route to the outside of the numbers, and it just sails over the dude's head. I'm like, no wonder he's not throwing picks. It's no one can catch it. It's like 5 yards away from everyone. Makes sense. So yeah.
And then the next ball is just this perfectly layered ball over a linebacker, fits it in a tight window. It's so perplexing.
And then there was another example. So it was like a play action, and it was a play action, like kind of a bootleg thing. And he had a tight end wide open for the touchdown, and he just didn't look. He didn't even look to throw it to him. The dude was like 5 yards past everyone. He just tucks it and runs, and he gets to the 1 yard line. I mean, it worked. The dude looks like, he's playing against like kids out there, considering how athletic and just how big he is. But, he is very just intriguing, and
it's the word.
I mean, yeah, I just can't compare. Like, I'm trying to think of a comparison for him to a type of prospect that we've seen. I know a lot of people throw out Josh Allen just because of the small school, big guy, strong arm. But from what I've read or heard and kind of seen, like, I feel like Allen was a little better of a passer and just more raw overall.
Yeah, I think the comparison is actually he's a better version of Jordan Love last year. So Jordan Love also had this just intriguing potential. I think Lance is better than Jordan Love in terms of being a better decision maker and just a more consistent thrower. But man, again, it's just weird because he could be amazing, he could be not so good. I don't know what he could be, but the talent is
it's there.
He threw a lot less. He had a lot less throws than him. Patrick Mahomes threw 288 throws, what he threw in 2018 for Texas Tech in like 4 games to bad receivers. They just made him throw every down.
He threw half the amount of throws Lance did, and he threw that in that Oklahoma, Texas Tech.
Yeah, dude. Didn't he throw 70 in that?
He threw a ridiculous amount. What
I will say is I wouldn't guarantee that him going to the 49ers automatically means he has to be a superstar, because here's the thing. Whoever gets drafted to the 49ers, I think, has a bit more pressure on them to perform right away. And Trey Lance is a guy who didn't play football last year, and maybe he's ready to go next year and he's just going to be awesome right out of the gate. But personally, and I could be totally wrong on this, I wouldn't bet on it. And that's where I say, well, the Niners don't have time to sit and develop him and give him the Josh Allen treatment. Yeah, Kyle Shanahan just got a 6-year extension, but he's also 4 years into a head coaching job that he has only 1 winning season and he has 3 losing seasons. Yeah. So I do think that Trey Lance doesn't exactly fit their timeline. And I think that in terms of development, I don't know if the Niners will have the time to sit and develop him and make him become the best he could be. And now I know you brought up the Lions, saying that the Lions, he does fit their timeline. Now, whether Anthony Lynn, Dan Campbell, and the Detroit Lions can actually do justice by a quarterback after what they did to Matthew Stafford, that's a great question. They probably cannot. They probably will not. But in terms of just timeline, I think he's better suited for them, actually, than he is the Niners. That's just my opinion on it. If you disagree, that's okay.
I'm with you entirely. As we mentioned, that's why we took Lance where we did, just because the Lions have nothing to play for this year. They are bottom of the barrel of the NFC of the entire league, and that's just, they've been getting rid of talent. They didn't have much to begin with. But Matthew Stafford, the man who's just been carrying the franchise for years, is gone. He's out. He's on the West Coast. Jared Goff is there. And yeah, we'll see what he can do. And I did want to bring this up. Grand Riser, I agree entirely with this point. I mean, I was just saying compared to the guys, I'm just saying athletically, he definitely looks, he's 6'4", like 240. He looks like a beast.
Yeah, it's not a knock. It's not a knock against his level of competition. It's just the fact that he stands out as so much more special than everybody else.
I think this is actually a great point and something me and you, Vish, have tried to drive home. You could say this level of competition garbage narrative for literally any of these top 5 quarterbacks, because every single one of them has had a better team compared to the overall competition.
ACC sucks.
Zach Wilson and BYU, Lawrence and Clemson. Don't need to say much about Alabama. Don't need to say much about where is it? It's North Dakota State or it is North Dakota State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, North Dakota State
for sure.
And wherever the other quarterback. I'm trying to think. Oh, Justin Fields, of course, Ohio State.
Yeah, obviously much better. Yeah, so, I mean, you can hate the win now narrative, and I understand where you're coming from. The thing is that rookies don't win wings. I think this is why everybody's so convinced that Kyle Shanahan is enamored with Mac Jones. I think this is exactly it, because they do look at it as a win now. They do look at it as they do need a starter. You don't give up 3 firsts and a third because you want Jimmy Garoppolo to start next year. That's not how this works. I think that I've always been of the mindset that this was plan C for the 49ers. I think they tried for Matthew Stafford. I think Matthew Stafford wanted the Rams, and the Rams wanted Matthew Stafford. That was done and dusted. And I think they were looking to push for Deshaun Watson. I believe with all my hearts that the 49ers move was to try and get Deshaun Watson, and then Deshaun Watson's unfortunate situation happened. I don't want to condemn him and say that right now that he is guilty, but it is an ugly situation, and I hope he's not guilty of those actions. That's all I will say on it. But when they got to that, I think they got to a point where they're looking for a starting QB right now. And the thing with Lance is that he might be ready to start. He might not be. I don't know if he's ready to start. I don't know if he's not ready to start, because only people who know Trey Lance would be able to answer that question with you. But there are questions with Trey Lance on just execution in general. And that's where with Mac Jones, even though I have questions about how successful he will be early, I have no questions on whether he can consume and execute the Kyle Shanahan offense immediately. I think there might be a little more turnovers just because he can't run out of plays when they're not right. But plays are not going to be not right very often for the 49ers. So I get why the Mac Jones thing has so much steam, even though I don't love it.
That's well put. And the rookies don't win rings. I will say this, though. Rookie quarterback or quarterbacks that are paid their rookie contract scale do win rings. So win now doesn't necessarily mean it's do or die this year. It could be do or die year two, maybe year 3 if they can keep the band together. But I mean, they have the time frame. If whoever they draft is going to be 4 to 5 years when they are dirt cheap compared to hopefully the level of play they are producing.
Yeah. And that's right on. That's the other point, right? It doesn't have to be win now year 1, 2021. Yeah. But 2022 is definitely going to be win now, because they're going to start to pay other guys and they're going to start to lose other guys. And so it's going to be a little bit of a win now. And I think I really think that's why people keep saying Mac Jones. And it hurts, but I get it. And this is the other thing. On there. Maybe this is the other. This is the other thing. This is the other thing, right? Like RG3 went to the playoffs. Russell Wilson went deep into the playoffs. Big Ben went 15-1 and deep into the playoffs. Like rookie quarterbacks may have never won a Super Bowl in the history of the NFL, but you can go deep into the playoffs with the rookie quarterback. And I'd argue Big Ben wasn't very good as a rookie. Their team was just loaded.
Yeah, I mean, you can say all this has never happened, or this position getting paid this amount is never won. You can say that until it does happen, because it's not a binary, like if you have a rookie quarterback, you are unable to win. Now, it definitely makes things harder, but yeah, I mean, the Niners are set up. They have a pretty good roster compared to the other teams that are picking 1 and 2. I'd say, I mean, the rosters are infinitely better than the Jets, at least for this year. So,
yeah,
we'll see.
Yeah. And Blake, do you have any more questions you want to take? Because I think we've reached about an hour, 30 minutes.
There was
Shall we call
one.
it?
There was one. It was a Packers one. It was pretty good.
If you can find it.
I'm finding it. I think this is an interesting question.
Oh.
And I was going to pull this up. There's 2 really good back-to-back. The analytics question, which was awesome. Thank you for asking that. And then this one. What do you think about Rodgers has no help argument? Now, I do not like this argument at all. Now, I'm going to compare 2 teams from last year. I'm going to compare the Chiefs and I'm going to compare the Packers supporting casts. Now, I would say a lot of people are like, Mahomes is only good because of his play caller and he has Hill and Kelsey. Now, what they won't say is that in Aaron Rodgers' situation, yes, I'd say Hill and Devontae, you can cancel them out. I'd say Kelsey's way better than any second option the Packers have. I will say that. Running backs are pretty comparable, but yeah, they definitely have a superior play caller, and their number 2 options definitely better. But the guys besides that are not like, crazy better, like McCole Hardman and Sammy Watkins. I wouldn't take those dudes that much over Tunyon and Allen Lazard. Like, I don't think they're that much.
Green Bay's offensive line also.
That's what I'm getting to. Like, the Packers O-line is the top 3 in the league. Is the Chiefs even close to that? Was it last year? No. But all I was hearing this year was, or people were saying in the media, like the only reason Mahomes is good is because he has Kelsey and Hill, and they make him look a lot better than he is. Now, I will say this. If you put any top 8 quarterback, yeah, they're going to put up insane stats because Hill, Kelsey, and Reed are that's an insane duo. But saying he has no help, like Devontae Adams is pretty good. Now, Bob Tunyon, I don't know how great he would be without Rodgers. I don't know if he'd be all that good, but there's worse tight ends in the league. Aaron Jones is a really good running back. Jamal Williams was good. A.J. Dillon was solid, and they had a really good O-line. So, yes, they're definitely missing a number 2 receiver. I will not sit here and say that Marquez Valdes-Scantling and Allen Lazard are some world beaters that cannot be improved upon. I entirely agree. But saying he has no help, and then the other thing that just bothers me to no end is like the Mercedes Lewis is the only first-round talent or first-round pick that Aaron Rodgers has thrown a pass to or touchdown pass to. I'm like, all right. Who'd they take in the second round then? Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Greg Jennings, Devontae Adams. They've had other good guys. James Jones was really good. Donald Driver, Jermichael Finley. It's not like he's been playing with some scrubs out there. Like those are good guys that I all listed. And that's just off the top of my head. There's other ones too. So saying he has no help, I don't agree with. I'd say if you look at the defensive end, yeah, they have failed him multiple times. I'm not going to sit here and say having Lindsey Pipkins, Ladarius Gunter, and Donatello Brown out there at corner in the 2016 NFC Championship game was ideal, but I think on offense they have had talent. Now defense, sure, I will sit here and I'll say they definitely failed him many times. Special teams the same, but their offense has had talent.
I think that was a hell of an argument. I don't have much else to add to it. I think that's pretty right on. And then one thing I would add is that I think that the play calling thing is no longer a problem. LaFleur has a hell of a system, and he's a good play caller. I think part of LaFleur's people underrate him is because he had to coach Marcus Mariota in Tennessee. If he got to coach Ryan Tannehill and Ryan Tannehill was his quarterback, he would have had a top 10 offense in Tennessee. You can't have it. It's difficult to have a top 10 offense with Marcus Mariota as your quarterback. And so I 100% agree with you. And I think that that's right on.
Yeah, and it's not to say that they've had the best talent. Like there's other teams that draft better. You could say, the Patriots have surrounded Brady better. And I'd say, yeah, sure. But saying they've failed to surround him with offensive talent is not the best. I mean, they've had a good O-line for
ever,
as long as I can remember, since the early 2010s. So,
and then real quick, I guess we'll just answer this and then we'll call it a show. Blake, if you don't mind me going, I don't believe in it at all. I know when people say you sit your quarterback because Brady sat, Rodgers sat, Mahomes sat, those weren't bridge quarterbacks. Those were legitimate starters that teams were comfortable with. They just drafted the quarterback because they thought the value was too great, or in Brady's case, they had no clue he would actually become Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback ever. So that's just the way I feel about it. I mean, the Patrick Mahomes draft pick was similar to the Packers going and getting Jordan Love. Like, that's the future, but they didn't pick Jordan Love because they needed a starting quarterback. Like, the Niners don't fit into the category of, well, they have this starting quarterback, because I don't think they look at it that way with Garoppolo. I really think they're looking for a starting quarterback. They don't want to go one more year trying to play this game with Garoppolo's health and trying to play this game with his play, because while it's solid and he is a starting quarterback in the NFL and he's a solid player, I don't think it's to the expectations of what Kyle Shanahan wants. And that's where I don't believe in the bridge quarterback philosophy. I don't understand how one game for Tyrod Taylor really helped Justin Herbert last year. I don't understand how one half for Tom Savage helped Deshaun Watson. I don't understand how, Tyrod Taylor for Baker Mayfield. I don't understand how those 2.5 games helped him. So, yeah, I don't believe in the bridge quarterback philosophy.
I guess is the philosophy that you need a bridge quarterback before you bring in the young guy. And I think the examples you brought in were perfect, that, like, you know, Favre was still a pretty good quarterback, although declining. Bledsoe was pretty good for the Patriots. Didn't get to see him play, but, you know, that's kind of a fact. And then obviously Alex Smith, when they had Mahomes, Alex Smith looked pretty good. I mean, he was getting talked about as an MVP candidate for a little bit, which is kind of nuts. And, you know, it was pretty unrealistic. It was a down year for MVPs in 2017, but man, I understand the logic. I'm cool with it. I just think I'd rather have a bridge quarterback than throwing my quarterback onto a talentless roster and just having him get killed and not be good, getting put in good spots. I guess that's where I'll say with that.
Yeah, and then before we go, I just wanted to say, so from what I understand, Jordan Matthews was running routes, and they brought in players to run routes at that pro day because North Dakota State, is going through their season right now. So because they can't have any receivers do the pro day because of COVID protocol. It didn't have anything to do with the talent of receivers. And I will say this, the receivers aren't great. Obviously, there are FCS receivers, but North Dakota State's receivers relative to the FCS talent are better receivers than what's there in the talent. So I think that needs to be taken into account as well.